These trains that cart the iron ore. There's something like 240 carriages. They're about 2.4 kilometres long. And each one of those carriages, or they call them cars, can hold something like a 100 tonne. Bloody massive thing. This was on the way out to Dampier from Karratha, and they had these big salt ponds all on the side of the road. It was huge along with the iron ore, but quite interesting. So when you get into Dampier, they've got the famous Red Dog. There's actually a movie on it, really interesting to have a look at. But he wandered all round to Pilbara, and yeah, bit of a character. So this tells you a little bit about its Rio Tinto's salt operations. It's produced from seawater which flows through a series of ponds. This was part of the tour that I'd done that included the salt ponds. They were absolutely huge, but to give you a bit of an idea, there was 15,000 hectares with almost 11,000 hectares covered in water. And then it takes approximately 18 to 24 months to produce the salt from the seawater, and 65 tonnes of seawater produce 1 tonne of salt. This is right across the road from where I was staying, but this is the port where the ships come in. This is where all the iron ore is loaded onto them. So when the trains come into Karratha, the drivers get off, and then the train itself is actually remotely controlled from Perth. So it comes in, dumps all the iron ore off, and then it back out to Karratha, and that's when the driver gets on and heads back out to the mines, about 350 kilometres.
So they had these 3 or 4 piles of conveyor belts wrapped up, ready to go out to site. So as we go along here, you'll actually see the conveyor belt, and you'll see it's obviously moving, it's going out to the ship, and you'll actually see at the very top, you'll see that there's a bit of iron ore on top. So this conveyor belt actually runs at about 20 kilometres an hour. So it's just constantly taking out the ore. Here on the left hand side, this big shed, this is the car dumper area. As you can see, the iron ore train is moving along positioner. So you can see it moving back into position now, so it's going back to the start sort of funnel things down the bottom. That's where the iron ore gets poured into, and then from there down the bottom, right down the bottom, there's actually the conveyor belt, and that will then take it out to the stockpiles. So we are directly under that car dumper right now. A lot of locals, if they work in this industry, they actually have a separate washing machine for their work clothes, because their work clothes just get so trashed with iron ore and grease and goop and everything else.
These are all the stockpiles of the iron ore. So each one of those carriages holds 100 tonnes, you would say. And there's, I think it was 220 carriages. 2.4 kilometres long they are. That there is the carriages are being emptied. It's all automated. There's nobody working them. All controlled from Perth.
You're ready for it, guy? Stop.
That loud bang that you hear is the actual cart stopping when they go to empty the iron ore out of them.
That's the actual township of Dampier itself. You've got the oval, and then you've also got Sam's Island, so a different perspective of Sam's Island.
You see out there, that's the stockpiles of the salt.
So with the salt loading facility, they don't have a ship loader that can move. They have to actually move the ship to make sure that it stays balanced. So that's a really big difference between salt and iron ore. If we come along here, we can actually have a look at some of the iron ore. So in this bucket, these two buckets here, you can see we've got the lump. So that's quite chunky, I guess. And then in here, I'm not even going to put that up, but in there, you've got the fine. So it's quite small, gravelly type stuff.
Actually, it looks finer from a distance than it actually does.
Yeah, it does. And then, I'll see if this works. So if you can sort of see the glittering sparkles in it. Yep. So that's the iron in it. And basically the grading is so high that if they were to get a welder, they could actually just weld the rocks together.
Wow.
So, and usually, this isn't a very good rock, but usually what happens is you can actually make it a bit shiny, but it's not really doing what it's meant to do. So, but quite often you'll see, especially up here, you'll see the iron ore jewellery, and it's very highly polished. So that is still iron ore, but it's been polished extensively. So.
After the tour, I come down to this beach. It's where all the locals go. The tide was out when I was there, but when the tide's in, they reckon it was a really, really nice spot to have a swim. And you can see all the rocks. Everything is just reared out through that way. Just gets into everything. In the next episode, we make our way down to Exmouth. Thanks for watching.